Guys, what we're basically doing today is to search for the tastiest biscuits ever on the playground. Are you guys ready? Yeah! The search starts in 3, 2, 1, let's go!
Sona biscuits are rich in flavor, nourishment, and excitement for kids of all ages. Grab a bite today.
You're welcome to Educare TV program, and this time around having Nancy Ekpezu, and then we're looking at how school administration can improve learning outcomes. Nancy, please, can we get to know you and all that you represent?
Okay, thank you for having me, Dr. Van. I'm Nancy Ekpezu, and I'm the lead consultant at Pezu Smith Consulting. My organization works with schools and other organizations to help them put effective structure for effectiveness and also to be sustainable. I'm also the author of 3 amazing books, Dear Educator, The School Administrator's Companion, and Effective Boarding House Administration. Those are my books in print, and I have a few e-books. And in the past few years, since 2019 precisely, we've done a lot of training around administration and management because I discovered personally that there was a gap in that area in our clients, and so my organization helps to fill that gap.
Thank you. Good to have you, Nancy, here. I'm actually very happy to have you, to pull you from your comfort zone to join us in this conversation. And we're going to look at some questions and see how this can help in the school administration for good learning outcomes. How will you rate the current learning outcomes in Nigeria education system?
Well, that's a bit tough to define because we really do not deal with data a lot of times, which is very worrisome. You know, I think that we've come of age where we should have data on designated websites where people can go to find out everything that is going on, you know, what's the percentage of pass, of rates of this, and even with the learning outcomes, it's confusing because we cannot really say that the results we are getting are really the learning outcomes we are getting. Because they're 2 different things. Schools are now aimed at passing exams, having kids pass exams, and they resort to all kinds of malpractices to get that done. So I would not say that that's a reflection of the learning outcomes that we have. We've been so focused on grades that we have forgotten what exactly the learning outcomes should be.
So you're saying, is that actually education?
I wouldn't say that's anything to be encouraged about here, because if we are saying that we're flaunting grades that a particular school has, maybe in IGCSE, in the West African School Certificate exams, that might not be a true reflection of the learning outcomes that that particular school is getting from the students.
So in your own opinion, what are the key factors that influence learning outcome in schools, in school settings?
I would say the quality of teachers. Yeah, of course, that has to do with recruitment processes by the administration. So the administration plays a key role on the kind of teachers that are employed. What quality of teachers do we have? How well do we invest in their professional development? And then what are even the criteria for determining if a teacher is qualified or unskilled? Because just because someone can come and do the regular rote learning and teaching style with children doesn't necessarily mean they're qualified. Having a certificate from a college of education doesn't quite make you qualified if you're not up to date with best practices in 2023. There are teachers who have a master's degree, and I would not call them qualified teachers. They probably just have a paper certificate to show, but you know, there are certain qualities that make a teacher qualified as far as I'm concerned. And I think that apart from that, the skills and the attitude, do you have a visible love for children? No matter, even if you have a PhD, a doctorate degree in education, but you do not have that love for children, that, you know, it has to be visible. When someone is meant to work with children, it shows in everything they do, in their attitude, in the way they treat the kids, in the way they care for them, the kind of pastoral care that they offer the children. So these are things that are far more important to me than just having a paper qualification.
Great. So how can school administration contribute to improving learning outcomes? Now we are coming to your core area. You have been an administrator over the years, and you have some books on that. You've been training on that. How do all this contribute to improving the learning outcomes?
Believe me, everything in a school boils down to administration and management.
Okay.
And so even the quality of teachers we're talking about is still a function of how the administration goes about it. So basically, school administration has a huge role, I must say, in the learning outcomes that a school gets. Let's start with, I've mentioned recruitment, for example. If a school does not know how to attract and retain quality teachers, there's going to be a problem, a huge problem for that matter. Because no parent wants to come and just see a change of teachers every term. There's a kind of discontinuity it brings to a system. You know, having to get children to get used to another teacher every term. Because these kids are human beings. They have to go through a period of adjusting first to a teacher and then another and another and another. It's definitely going to affect them.
I've actually seen, I've also heard students that children that will not go to school, and you ask them why. They say, oh, my teacher has left. And
because they had a connection
with
that
teacher. With that teacher.
Exactly.
So this
there's a huge the relationship has a huge part to play in the way that children learn. And sometimes we forget that as administrators and think that, well, so long as a teacher in the classroom, then we're doing our jobs. Not necessarily so.
Why do you think we have this high turnover in teachers? In this
I would say there are several factors. From my experience as a school administrator, I've actually had to leave a school even as the administrator. when I found that
why did you leave?
When I found that it was toxic, and it was a school where I worked for just a year, and I noticed that their record showed they had a new administrator almost every school year, and the very issues those previous administrators were trying to address with the school owners were the same things that I was addressing, which of course had to do with a rather condescending attitude to the way that the human workforce was treated. I wasn't comfortable with it. I wasn't comfortable. And so those are reasons a teacher might want to leave a school.
Do you think monetary motivation?
Monetary, yes. But I would tell you something. People might stay longer in a school where they are treated very well. Even if the salary, so long the salary is regular, and there's a professional development going on, and they feel a sense of community and belonging. People work for different reasons, and perhaps incentives such as scholarships to make them stay, scholarships for their children, because if they leave even for a higher paying job, they are ultimately going to pay school fees for their children, and people will tell you we're working for our children. You know, so if I'm going to earn higher in another school and pay far higher school fees, and this school offers a scholarship for my child, even though the salary is not so much, and I'm treated well and I'm happy, then what am I leaving for? So sometimes the assumption that it's only money that makes people stay in a school is actually wrong.
Okay, so now let's
That's
go.
just one of the Nigeria is a good factor.
Exactly.
Considering the way
even the economy of this country.
If you've been to market to buy tomatoes lately, you won't understand.
I'm telling you. that's just tomato stock of 2 books for students and all that. So it is actually, I think that is one of the highest motivators, if you ask me.
It is a huge
in this part of the world.
In this part of the world is a huge motivation. But I will also tell you that from my experience, I'm currently recruiting for schools. And people are leaving so-called top schools where they are paid well.
Wow. So the environment is
they're still, and in the course of the interview, I asked a lot of questions. So this is actually a research I'm also doing. Why are you leaving? And they'll tell me things like, oh, I'm not given a free hand to to practice, I don't feel fulfilled. Are you paid a good salary?
Yes.
Oh, yes. What if we offer you the same salary you're paid there? Would you leave? And they say yes. So if they're leaving for exactly the same salary in another place, then I would say that it's not exactly the salary that is the issue. They might be working in a toxic environment. You know, there are a lot of politics in some organizations, and sometimes not qualified administrators or managers are leading the schools. And so they come with malpractices and things that do not promote a healthy culture. And if someone feels maligned or not just aligning to the values of an organization and the culture, then it might lead to their exit.
Wow. So how can school administrators support teachers in enhancing their instructional practices and improving these learning outcomes you're talking about?
First, get right quality teachers first that are trainable.
Okay, trainable is the
Trainable,
yes.
Because you can't just root out anybody and start supporting them. Are they ready? First, the interview should be such that you're able to screen out at least those that you can work with. And then when you have them, make sure they have a proper onboarding process that even shows them what your teaching styles, what kind of outcomes you expect from the students. There are some schools where they don't really care so long the children pass exams. They're just fine. But I think learning the outcomes involves even about values. It involves values. It involves character formation. It involves a change of attitude and perspective and thinking in behavioral patterns. And until you see them apply these things you're teaching in everyday life, then the teaching and learning is not complete. So you can support teachers by making resources available, and of course providing a robust professional development program. I recall on my last job, they say, "Oh, Miss Nancy is Miss Profession."
What's the name of that?
They just nicknamed me all kinds of names because when I got in there, I noticed that they were just fine with their regular style, not having just having their teacher-friendly classroom and not caring. So long we're teaching, delivering, and the kids are passing, we're fine. So when I came to disrupt the system, it was a bit rocky. Like, hey, look, you have to introduce this, you have to introduce that, you have to do it. Like, oh, this is too much trouble, So you can support them by providing a robust professional development program. And which is actually research-based, because what training one school will have to undergo is very different from what another one would undergo. If I were to take another school, for example, the professional development program I had on my last job may not necessarily be the one I'll put for them, because based on their performance, and that brings me to performance management. You must have a proper performance management system in place that reveals where you're doing fine and where you're not. And those areas where you're not, that is where you extract the information to be able to build your professional development program. So you don't say, oh, school A is having a training on classroom management. That is what everybody here needs. And yes, those are things every school needs, but there are peculiar needs to your school. And you have to tailor your professional development program to suit exactly your school. So what are these teachers struggling with? Perhaps it's technology. And these days, believe me, there's not much you can do with children without technology. Because they are the digital natives, and this is the world they were born into. They do not understand a world without technology. And so if you're a teacher in 2023, and you say, no, that's not my business. It's like saying that I prefer those pots that were used in storing water?
Yes, the clay pots.
Clay pots.
The water is always very cold.
It's cold, but do you have that in your house now, even as much as cold?
I wish I can't take it.
But yeah, you wish. But if I walked into your house, Dr. Van, and then saw you with a pot, I would first have to look at you and be like, oh, really? Or imagine you got into a hotel at the reception, and the receptionist says, oh, you're welcome. What's your name, ma'am? Did you book before now? Please, let's offer you some water. And then she opens the clay pot. You will take off in 2023. But that's what we do. We want to serve children because the fridge has actually, the fridge happens to the clay pot. And so it lost its relevance.
Right, yeah.
And so we can't keep saying, no, this is how we were taught in school. This is how we must do it. I was taught this way. Or why don't you go back to using chalk?
Exactly. Okay.
So we can't say in 20, we can't say in 20.
The charcoal to paint.
Exactly. So we can't say in 2023 that, okay, we just want to do it the same old way we've always done it. You have to leave your comfort zone and speak the language of the digital natives.
Sure.
Because that's the way they understand you. And I think that's why a lot of teachers get disrespected.
Okay, thank you so much. We've been on this conversation with Nancy Ekpezu, and it's been very captivating. And on this topic of input of the school administrator to learning outcomes of students. So we're going to just take a short break. Stay back and don't go away. Thank you.
It's more tonic time. It's no reason to the last drop. Share with friends and family. More tonic, more tonic. It's good for me and you.
Make great things happen with Malt Tonic.
Malt tonic is enriched with vitamins and minerals for that rush of vitality you need to reach greatness.
It's more tonic time.
Welcome back to Educare TV program, and this time around having Nancy Ekpezu, and then we're looking at how school administration can improve learning outcomes. So what challenges or barriers do school administrators face when they are attempting, to improve learning outcomes? And how can they overcome that? You have been in this profession for years, and I'm sure you have encountered these barriers from especially school owners or stakeholders in the school, and it's kind of impossible for you to push because you have so much to give, but you're kind of being stifled to giving that which you have to give. I'm sure you face such barriers. So I want you to just advise administrators who also face such barriers how they can overcome that, and as you did.
Okay. So first I'll start with the obstacles, and then I'll recommend how to go about overcoming them. Okay, so first, school owners in the private sector actually have a way of protecting their schools, so to say, from even their employees, who should be stakeholders themselves, you know. And rightly so. That's because they do not really get support from anywhere. This is a funded project, self-funded project most of the time, and they've probably had to get loans to do the schools. And so the fear of having someone from outside just come in and, bring things and become like a stakeholder in their business is usually a bit threatening. And you would not blame them because of the high level of unprofessionalism amongst school management professionals. Perhaps they've had nasty experiences in the past, or they've had friends who have schools and they were ruined by, poor leadership, poor school administrators. And so I think one of the ways, so it might come in the form of you trying to bring changes and they resist. It might also come in the form of them saying, we don't have money to do this, we don't have money for that. And a lot of times they really might not have money. But, if it's just resisting change, they could do that even when the money is available. And so I think one of the first things you need to do as an administrator is to establish your professionalism. Because the school owners are watching you. Are you worthy of being even committed that school to? That's the question you should ask yourself. Do I have the skills? Do I have the experience? what are the fears in the mind of my employer, why they do not want me to take over certain roles. And then if you're able to prove yourself, which has to be a very deliberate and planned effort from you, if they see you take baby steps and you're able to get it right, and then they can build trust. It's not easy to trust people with your finances. Because the way the rate of staff turnover in schools is such that the school owners do not even know where you're leaving to next. And so you might be leaving to a competitor school and then diverging their information to the next person. So when they protect their schools, they are doing that because it is their investment. So what you need to do is to develop an ownership mindset and buy the trust of the school board you work with or the employer. Because believe me, if I have a business and I just employ someone, I've never met you, saw you on LinkedIn and bring you in, I might vouch for your skills, but it takes more than skills to have trust. Your character has to be in place. When you're organizing a school event and there's a little money left, do you hand it over to the school? Or do you pocket it and say, it doesn't matter, this little 10,000 remaining, I just put it in my pocket? The moment they notice such attitude, they're going to protect their schools the more. And you will not blame anybody. Any of us would do that. If I were to invest millions and millions to get a beautiful school, and then I bring in a leader, I want to watch to be sure they are worthy of the level of trust that I want to. So, but what we do is sometimes we get in as administrators and think that we should get the trust just because we got the job. Getting the job is one thing. Earning the trust of the board and the school owner is a totally different ball game. So maybe you have not earned the trust of the owner. In all of the schools I've worked, there's one thing they'll tell you: not a kobo got missing in any of the schools. And I think I even mentioned that in my book, The School Administrator's Companion. When I was being sent off on my last job, one of the things the staff told me was, we didn't know there was such a level of integrity in a leader in our clients, and we learned that from you. I didn't have to tell them to return money. They saw the school administrator do that. And so you cannot tell those under you to do what you are not doing. If you're pilfering money and embezzling the little money, more will not be committed to you. And I must tell you, on my last job, I had privy to the school's accounts, everything the school made in the early years, in the primary and in the secondary. But you know, you have to earn the trust. It's not just because you got a job and you have a master's degree in educational administration, and so you just sit there, and why are they not showing me the account? Why are they not doing this? They are not allowing me to do. You have to earn. The things that do not involve money, how are you executing them? The ones when you're committed little money is to test your level of professionalism and character. But when you fail those little tests, believe me, the owner would rather shut you out. And that's why you see school owners will not even involve in decision making when it comes to finance. I have been involved. On my first school admin job, I was told that the previous administrators didn't have privy to the school account, but I did. The bank statement used to pass through my office, and it was a private organization. I would sign. I knew how much was going out for salaries. I knew how much, but that a lot of school administrators cannot say that. Because they'll rather hide all the information. Either you're busy talking to everybody, or you know how much the school has, you talk to the staff. And when a school owner starts hearing such from the staff, it doesn't build trust. But if you understand what it means to be ethical and professional and add character to it, believe me, you will earn their trust. And even when you leave, they'll want to keep exactly. For some of my former employers, actually my clients of Peso Smith Consulting, even today, I've been flown in to come and train, teams that I left behind as an administrator because of the level of trust. But you see, if you're there pilfering money and setting or playing local politics and building toxicity in the workplace instead of serving with your whole heart and doing a good job, then believe me, more will not be trusted to you. So having a school owner leave the organization for you to run with a free hand will not come automatically in the private sector just because you are the administrator. That is something else you have to earn. You have to earn it. So the moment you know that you have to earn that trust, it will help you to do everything it takes to earn trust.
Thank you so much, Nancy. It's been an insightful time with you. And we've gone a long way to look at especially what caught my attention is the commercial aspect of the school administrator, the business side of it, of the school administrator, and also the school administrator being in a strategic place to decide on the quality of teachers, the quality of learning resources, and then development of teachers.
Absolutely.
And a lot of deployment of things that will motivate the students to learn. Getting feedback from them, enforcing this, implementing all this. And also, we employ that school owners should give some of the school administrators free hands to work.
Yeah, and they should earn it too.
And of course, they should earn it. So thank you so much, Nancy, for this time out with you. This is still Educare Magazine TV, and with you is Dr. Mrs. Orie Van. We're having a lot of series on this improving the quality of education, the standard of education in Nigeria. Until we come your way next time. Thank you. God bless for staying with us.